what actually happened between Katy and Orlando. Katy has not been the same person for over a year now, and Orlando has had enough.
Now, so they go up there and they float for like 10 minutes?
At least.
And then they come down.
Let's not minimize this.
No. Well, Pete, there's already people saying that they faked it, which I think is silly.
Well, I love those people.
But that's great.
I think this is the confusion. I think the confusion is that they essentially got to the threshold of space.
Third, my favorite thing is, so her outrage is in direct disproportion to actual space flight, right?
Drama. That's also like a stereotypically female thing, which is not great.
So, yeah, it imploded after singer made embarrassing journey into space. All I know is Katy is having a bad year. I don't want to pile on.
Katy Perry's career was supposed to soar with her billionaire-backed Blue Origin spaceflight. The shiny PR stunt paired with feminism and girlboss energy was supposed to be awe-inspiring, but instead it brought ridicule. The internet didn't see a groundbreaking astronaut, they saw a desperate celebrity clinging to relevance. And the very Hollywood industry that once made her a household name suddenly turned silent on her. Katy's downfall didn't happen in one scandalous explosion, it happened in a slow and excruciating fall. From awkward stage meltdowns, a failed album, and a public breakup, the signs for fallout were all there. But the moment she brought in the space stunt, Hollywood was done. On February 12, 2025, Katy Perry boarded Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin rocket as part of what was marketed as the first all-female celebrity astronaut crew. There were photo ops, matching jumpsuits, and emotional speeches about feminine energy and breaking boundaries.
And this right here is the moment that they've been training for. 2 days, becoming a crew, becoming a team.
2 days.
But the second that rocket landed barely, 10 minutes after takeoff, the internet had already decided that this wasn't history. It was a big joke. The capsule reached suborbital space, hovered for a few minutes, and then returned. Simply a 10-minute joyride for billionaires playing as space tourists. And for someone like Katy Perry, who spent weeks hyping it up as a moment of empowerment, the backlash was merciless. The term Katy Cosmonaut trended on social media. Critics compared it to Kendall Jenner's infamous Pepsi ad being tone deaf, self-important, and painfully out of touch. And Megyn Kelly didn't hold back. On her podcast, she shredded the launch as a well-funded Instagram story in disguise and slammed Perry's pre-flight training as little more than rehearsal for a glorified amusement ride.
Oh my God. They're training? They did 2 days and is jetting people, to outer space for like 10 minutes, for as long as like your average YouTube video takes. They're treating her like she was in Nam. Where are my babies? My babies. Like she was almost dead. Here's Katy Perry. Kisses the ground.
Her takedown hit over 5 million views in 2 days. And then came Joe Rogan, mocking Perry's talk of cosmic awakenings and divine femininity as nonsense.
Let's celebrate female astronauts. I said to you a few this morning. I think they're essentially like on the border of the atmosphere.
But the real damage too. Katy's reputation came in the silence that followed. Hollywood said nothing in response. No celebrities rallied around her. No major outlets praised the moment. Because behind the scenes, insiders already saw the stunt as nothing more than a desperate pivot. The spaceflight exposed just how far Perry had drifted from her roots, but that was only the start. The moment Katy Perry touched back down on Earth, the industry started pulling away quietly, at first with things like lacking headlines, awkward silence from fellow celebrities, and a noticeable absence of endorsement posts. But as the hours passed and things online only got worse, the tone shifted. And this time, there was no comeback. What was supposed to be a high-profile return through an empowering rebrand had backfired spectacularly. Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan became the faces of a wider cultural rejection. Rogan mocked her spiritual awakening in orbit as a zero-gravity cosplay, and Kelly questioned why someone worth hundreds of millions needed any sort of empowerment in the first place.
Nothing says female empowerment like getting this opportunity to go to outer space and making sure everyone can see your breasts.
That Katy Perry needs to be further empowered bothers me. She's already got about $1 billion and, short of Taylor Swift, is the most famous pop star and female pop star in the world. This is why she needs empowering, because she keeps revealing her stupidity like that and we have to boost her back up.
But the silence from Perry's own peers said even more. In an industry where alliances are everything, Katy suddenly found herself alone. The usual cousins vanished. No Grammy nominations, no celebrity cameos, not a single A-list shout-out. For a woman who once ruled the red carpet, her absence was deafening. Even her longtime collaborators seemed to keep their distance. Max Martin and Stargate, the pop gods behind many of Perry's biggest hits, offered no support for her space stunt or her upcoming projects. It was as if everyone had made the same realization that associating with Katy Perry was no longer worth the risk. And in Hollywood, that kind of branding is toxic. Executives soon began pulling out of her meetings. Brand deals disappeared. Sponsors went cold. The people that once pushed her to global stardom were ready to leave her behind for good. But Katy wasn't ready to give up. After the Blue Origin flop, Katy Perry tried to shift the narrative once more. Her newest plan was the album titled 143, a throwback to old school pager slang for I love you. It was meant to feel nostalgic, like a love letter to the era Perry once dominated. She even reunited with some of her best collaborators like Max Martin, Stargate, and most controversially, Dr. Luke. That last choice sparked new controversy for her.
And against all the internet and fans, it was just a dumb choice to go back to Dr. Luke.
Dr. Luke was a producer accused by Keisha of emotional and physical mistreatment, and was still, at the time, entangled in lawsuits and public scrutiny. And yet, Katy, despite claiming to support female empowerment, welcomed him back like nothing had happened.
Now, again, this album had a lot of problems, specifically the Dr. Luke of it all, the producer who was having so much accusations himself and with Kesha and everything else, and which Kesha says Katy knew. And then Katy basically was like, I don't care, I'm working with Dr. Luke again.
Fans were stunned, and critics didn't hold back. The internet dragged her for hypocrisy, questioning how someone so eager to preach empowerment could align herself with such a controversial figure. But beyond the backlash, there was another problem. Her music simply didn't land. 143 was a confusing blend of soft nostalgia and forced reinvention. Songs that were meant to be modernized came off as old and dated. Katy simply didn't have her edge anymore, and the industry took notice. There was no hype and no song of. The summer buzz the release was eerily quiet. Streams were at a standstill, and even talk shows didn't seem interested. It was as if the world had already decided Katy Perry's relevance was over, and the press tour didn't help. Every interview circled back to Dr. Luke, the space flight, or to the perception that Katy had lost her way. She tried to steer conversations toward her artistic growth, but it never stuck. The damage was already done, and 143 became a symbol of everything done wrong, bad timing, bad judgment, and a desperate attempt to reclaim a crown the industry had taken for good. And while the world dissected her failed album and tone-deaf space flight, Katy Perry's personal life quietly began to fall apart. After nearly 9 years of love, Orlando Bloom had finally had enough. For years, he had stood by her side through her bizarre reinventions, awkward interviews, and failed PR moves. But according to insiders, the Blue Origin stunt was the last straw.
Why did Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom break up after 9 years? New reports are alleging it's because Orlando kept warning her about her cringeworthy space flights and desperate attempts at promoting her new album.
Orlando had allegedly warned Katy not to go through with the spaceflight. He saw it as an embarrassing attempt to brand herself as a feminist icon using billionaire tricks and glitter jumpsuits, but Katy didn't listen. Instead, she leaned into the idea, ringing ceremonial bells and preaching empowerment, while floating in Bezos' celebrity rocket. But Orlando wasn't just concerned for her career. He was tired of always defending her choices, tired of needing to explain the disconnect between her strengthening messaging and her chaotic image. And while Katy made a fool of herself on stage and in public settings, Orlando was starring in serious documentaries and doing extreme stunts. The contrast between their worlds had become too much to ignore. Insiders claimed he felt secondhand embarrassment during her performances, and that the cool pop queen he fell in love with had become an overproduced, try-hard version of her former self. And when even your own fiancé starts referring to your career as cringe, the damage is far worse than anyone could capture, and that's why their breakup was so symbolic. Orlando's quiet exit mirrored what the rest of the industry had already done. He didn't bash her publicly, he simply left. And that silence hit harder than any big announcement could. And as Katy Perry's public image crumbled, the people she'd crossed along along the way started coming back out of the shadows. These people were artists with first-hand stories that painted a very different picture of the cute girl power icon. The world once thought they knew it started with Ren Weaver, an indie pop artist known for her soulful and chill presence. At Coachella, Ren claimed that Katy mocked her appearance and humiliated her in front of others backstage. Ren said Katy made cruel jokes, immature comments, and made the entire interaction seem like straight bullying. While the story didn't explode in mainstream headlines, it spread fast within music circles. For those already questioning Katy's authenticity, it confirmed the long-held suspicions that the sweet and empowering persona was all just a mask. Then came Travie McCoy, the frontman of Gym Class Heroes and Katy's ex-boyfriend. Their breakup had been years ago, but the wounds were still fresh. Katy had victimized herself in their split in her 2010 song Circle the Drain, a brutal track accusing Travie of being lazy, addicted, and dragging her down. At the time, it was seen as raw and honest, but now, with Katy's credibility slipping, it came off differently, more like exploitation than vulnerability. Travie later admitted how the song hurt deeply and said she twisted their personal struggles. For attention, Ren and Travie's stories together sparked a deeper realization that maybe Katy had always been hiding behind a brand, one that used empowerment as a PR strategy and wrote hit songs about pain while quietly contributing to someone else's. And this new revelation was brutal to both the people who once believed her and Katy's reputation and brand as a whole. But Katy Perry's last hope for redemption came in the form of the Lifetime's tour. It was supposed to be the big comeback moment designed to remind the world why she once ruled the charts. But instead of fireworks and chart toppers, what the world got was an uncomfortable, slow-motion collapse on stage. From the first performance, something felt off. Videos leaked online showing Katy spinning in slow circles, wielding invisible lightsabers, and flopping into awkward splits that left the audience visibly confused. Perry didn't look powerful at all. Instead, she just looked lost. The choreography was clunky, her energy felt forced, and her presence lacked the spark that once made her larger than life back in her prime. Instead of a dazzling reinvention, the Lifetime's tour felt like a desperate attempt of reviving her former self. Fans weren't cheering, they were asking if she was okay yet. What truly exposed the level of the disaster was the silence it brought. In an industry where even flops get public support, no one came to her defense. It was like the entire entertainment world had collectively agreed to let her drown. Without a glance, her career was breaking as she knew it. The very industry that once pushed her into fame now watched silently, offering no support. Labels grew quiet. No surprise guests showed up, no viral duets. Just a painfully public reminder that the pop queen of the 2010s was now on her own. By the time the Lifetime's tour limped through its final cities, it was clear that this wasn't just the end of an era of a new album, it was the collapse of a whole persona. Katy Perry didn't just lose her momentum, she lost her entire story. For nearly 2 decades, she had thrived by being the rebel activist and feminist pop star. But in trying to be everything for everyone, she ended up being unrecognizable to those closest to her. Her image was once bulletproof. She was the queen of anthems that blended rebellion with bubblegum. She wore whipped cream brass, sang about kissing girls, and danced with Left Shark at the Super Bowl. But now her entire brand message was blurred. Every reinvention felt less like modern change and more like desperation to stay in touch. There was her political phase that fell flat, her activist rebrand that lacked substance, her shaved head era that confused more than inspired, and finally, her billionaire-funded space trip that reeked of privilege. Each version of Katy felt like it was chasing relevance that was over her. The final blow to her name didn't come in the form of a hot scandal or any explosive controversy. It came through silence. No invites to award shows, no celebrity collaborations. Even her most loyal producers like Max Martin and Stargate went quiet. Hollywood just simply stopped acknowledging Katy Perry. Reinvention is expected, even celebrated, but it has to feel earned. Katy's transformations felt hollow, and the fans could feel it. She wasn't the icon anymore. She was something far more dangerous in pop culture, irrelevant, because in Hollywood, when they stop talking about you, that's when it's truly over. Katy Perry didn't fall from a fire of controversy, but in the brutal silence of an industry that had moved on. No headlines, no comeback, just empty seats, harsh reactions, and former allies turning their backs. The woman who once dominated. Pop culture became a reminder that reinvention without reflection leads nowhere. Because when the image cracks and the truth comes out, reality will hit. And for Katy, the silence says it all.